Malcolm, can you just explain to me how senators who didn't have to travel to the Seanad during the 2-month COVID-19 restrictive period are going to get €4,000 each now for travelling?
Well, first of all, Andrea, I think it should be pointed out that I waived my claim, and I think the reporting independence reflects I waived my claim for travel during that period. And I think there are probably a number of things to look at here. First of all, is what are the expenses and so on that are paid? So there are two types of expenses that are paid to members of the Oireachtas. One is a kind of representational allowance, which deals with the normal running of their office for research, for advertising and services like clinics and things like that. And then the other is the travel and accommodation allowance, which is designed to cover where TDs and senators are travelling to Dublin for the purposes of meetings in and around the houses of the Oireachtas. And you're correct, the Seanad wasn't sitting because obviously until we had a government, the full composition of the Seanad couldn't come about. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that senators weren't working, and I can certainly say that I know that all of my colleagues at the time were working.
Oh, they were. And Malcolm, I'm not disputing that, but for that work that you and your colleagues did, you got €68,111 for doing that. This is a travel expense. This is a different subsistence.
It is now. I point out to you that I didn't get it.
You did, and I have to say, and I should say as well, according to the Irish Independent of Anna Batchik of the Labour Party, also the same as yourself, refused to take the expenses. And Senator Alice Mary Higgins has said that when the attendance is added up at the end of the year, if there's any days short due to coronavirus or late convening, that she'll be looking at that allowance. And I'm sure there will be others too today. But I suppose the point, Malcolm, I'm making is that at the height of the pandemic, we had nearly 600,000 people claiming the pandemic unemployment payment of €350. With many people who were out of work and weren't entitled to get the pandemic unemployment payment due to their age of 66. We've businesses in Kildare, Laois and Offaly shut down due to the lockdown and the impact that's having. We've 3,500 pubs still shut, and yet we've senators getting $4,000 for travel that they didn't have to do during this period. Like it's the PR at this doesn't sound great. Like.
Well, first of all, it's not a case that because even though I didn't claim it, it wasn't a case that I wasn't travelling during that period in order to attend meetings and so on in Dublin. So I think it is fair to say that senators would have been travelling during the period and would have been attending meetings. I think the core point, which is the one which Senator Alice Mary Higgins makes, is there is also a requirement on senators to have attended at a number of days where, like in anyone else other job, you have to fob in and so on. There have been additional days now required in terms of attending in Dublin in order to make, that to ensure that all of that travel is vouched. Okay. So at the end of the year, that will have to be reconciled. But I think there is an important point to this. I mean, I accept your point in terms of it's not good PR, but you've got to remember that it is an expense. It's not money that kind of goes straight into senators' pockets. And in this case, obviously, at the end of the year, there's a reconciliation period that's done. It's up to each. I chose in my own case, as I said, that I was going to waive that allowance, even though I had been travelling.
Yeah, well, that's the point. Look, and some people I know will have issues with regards to the system and how the system actually works. That in most other companies, you don't get your travel reimbursed until you actually carry out the travel. Can I just ask you finally, Malcolm? I just want to know. You said you've waived your right to claim this allowance. Should your other colleagues do the same?
Well, I can't, I can't comment on each individual case because each individual case and costs are there. I mean, I would certainly know, for instance, the Coherlic and some of the officers at the Seanad would have been regularly up and down because a number of preparations had to be made around the reopening of the Seanad.
But should the others do the same as you?
I'm not. Look, it's not my job to, comment on what others want to do. I made a personal decision. I didn't want to make a big song and dance about it, and I'm not going to do it. I certainly agree that in terms of that, it has to be transparent, and I think the fact that it is reporting independent, it shows in detail, what each senator is paid, the expenses that are allowed. I'm certainly very happy to talk about the costs of being involved in politics, and indeed, you'll be aware that there was a Green Party councillor who resigned this week to talk about for councillors.
That's right.
The fact that councillors aren't well paid.
Well, I'm not disputing as a senator.
Fair enough. As a senator, I am well paid. But there are also costs that are involved in politics, and it's often presented as this banana. Well, no, I think this is important. It's often presented as this kind of bonanza that's there, and I think it's better to actually look at what are the costs in terms of being involved in politics. Is it a fair salary that's being paid rather than some of the headlines?
Okay, all right.
I do accept the point. It is bad PR.
Well, it just doesn't look good, Malcolm. I have to say, for a lot. I'm sure there's a lot of business people out there today who'll have a view on this. But my thanks to you for your time and joining us here